can have the national anthem. We will remain standing for a word of prayer from Olivia and Saleh.
Let us bow down and pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts full of gratitude as we gather for the Kenya Space Expo and Conference. We thank you for the gift of knowledge, curiosity, and the drive to explore the vastness of your creation. We pray for the safety and success of all the initiatives and conference showcased here. Let this conference be a beacon of hope and inspiration, encouraging innovation that will benefit all humanity. Lord, we ask for your blessings upon the leaders and the organizers of this event. Strengthen us with patience and vision, and may our hard work bring forth fruitful discussions and breakthroughs. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Okay, let us continue praying. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين.
We may now take our seats. Honorable Aden Duale, CS for Defense, Honorable Soipan Tuya, CS for the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry,
Mr. Patrick Mariru, PS for the Ministry of Defense.
Mr. Charles Hinga Maura, PS for Lands,
Engineer John Kipchumba Tanui, PS for ICT.
Ms. Rosalind Njogu, PS for Diaspora Affairs,
Lieutenant General Omenda, VCDF, KDF.
Major General Fatuma Ahmed, Commander Kenya Air Force, KDF,
Major General Retired Arwasa, Chairman of the KSA.
Your Excellency Roberta Natalie, Ambassador of Italy to Kenya,
Your Excellency Wael Nasreddin Atia, Ambassador of Egypt to Kenya.
Your Excellency High Commissioner of India to Kenya, Ms. Namgia Kampa,
Major General Kinuthia, JCSC, KDF.
Major General Mohammed Hassan, Deputy Commander Kenya Army, KDF,
Major General John Koimo, Special Operations Command, KDF.
Major General Bernard Waliola, Board Director, Kenya Space Agency.
Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei, Director General, KSA.
Welcome, good morning and welcome. That was a very long list, all protocols observed. We needed to recognize many people, but good morning to our members of the Diplomatic Corps, Government of Kenya representatives, sponsors, Kenya Space Agency Board Directors, academia, invited guests, and all the delegates here and those watching online. Good morning and welcome to the Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024. A bit of a mouthful, we had to get through that one.
Our theme this year is Space Technologies for Societal Benefits.
And we will have an opportunity to talk about that in more detail, ourselves and of course other esteemed speakers who will be taking the stage. But we wanted to just get through a few house rules so that we're all comfortable and safe and happy over the next 3 days. Her name is Dr. Mwanasha Mwanambeyu.
And his name is Mr. Karaganya Momlole.
And together we will be taking you over the next 3 days, including today, of this incredible conference, the second Kenya Space Expo and Conference. We have a few house rules that we want to get through very quickly. First and foremost, very quickly, we have our washrooms that are located behind me to my left through that door. However, for the duration of this ceremony, we will be using the back exit, so the exit most of you came through, and we'll walk around. We have a fantastic team of ushers who I will introduce in a moment, who will be able to guide you in case you get lost, not only for the washrooms, but over the course of the next 3 days. We also have our ballrooms located.
Our ballrooms are located, we have this ballroom which will host the plenary, the major plenary, as well as some sessions in the afternoon. And we also have Mega Ballroom 3. The next door is an exhibit space, and the door after that is where Mega Ballroom 3 is located for the science engineering part of the program.
Excellent. As we mentioned, we will also be on social media, so please tag Kenya Space Agency on Twitter, on LinkedIn, currently known as X. Tweet, take photos to enable that. We also have Wi-Fi that we'll talk about in a moment. However, we are going to be online. Some of us are joining and streaming. Where's the camera? Let me just point and wave. Is it that? So let's wave at them and say, hey, just give a welcome for joining. We can all say it together online. Welcome for joining online in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we'll just say it together very quickly, all at the same time. Thank you for joining us online. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for joining us online. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. The Wi-Fi we have displayed it across. We have QR codes also for the conference. It also be displayed on screen. I know most of you have already connected as we were doing that before we began officially, but just in case you did not, the Edge is the name of the Wi-Fi and the password is 09876, capital E, small d, small g, and the number 3. Please scan if you need to connect to Wi-Fi. We also have the program online, QR code for the program that you can follow, everything that are happening virtually, and continue on with that. Finally, we have a fantastic team of ushers who I had spoken about before, and I'm going to invite Swale back to the stage. He's going to jog here so that you can all see what our ushers look like. They are wearing white shirts with the fantastic matching black pants. They also have blue tags, and not only the ushers, but all KSA staff. So if we can have some of our KSA staff just wave so that everybody can see you, all right? And maybe Malkia, and just very quickly, if you can stand here so that in case you are stuck, in case you need any help, please look for these individuals, fantastically branded. They'll be able to guide you. If you can't find any of them, registration desk, we are always seated. We'll be able to guide you. And in case, myself, Daktari, will also be able to help you. Thank you very much. A round of applause for them as they go down.
Like we had practiced, we are going to clap until our hands are red and burning. So let's try to set the pace for the next 3 days. I'd like us to put our hands together, clap as loud as we can, as fast as we can, and cheer as well. So 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Fantastic. The glucose is definitely entering our bodies. Thank you very much.
And Your Honor, we practiced it, so if at any point during the course of the next 3 days, or even the course of the ceremony, it doesn't go loud, please remind them that we've already rehearsed how loud they should all be. Thank you very much for that. All right. With that done, we want to just say very short remarks about the ceremony and then officially begin what we have planned for the opening ceremony. And just one is to say that the Kenya Space Agency is a state corporation mandated to promote, coordinate, and regulate space-related activities in the country.
Kenya Space Agency is hosting the second edition Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024, themed Space Technologies for Societal Benefits. The focus of this event is for the use of space science, technology, and applications in improvement of quality of life and enabling socio-economic development.
So this event is bringing together representatives from government, academia, industry, professionals, international organizations, startups, and the wider public to a multi-stakeholder dialogue on the use of STIC technologies in addressing the needs, as well as showcasing real applications in socio-economic development. That's it. We're not saying anymore. We have individuals who are very qualified to tell you more about the event, and we have so many sessions that we'll talk about happening over the next 3 days. However, for now, we wanted to start with a bit of entertainment. And just to be aware, Honorable Soipan, Tuya, Honorable Adendwale, we have a very wide stage that you'll see the purpose for a moment. So I hope everybody is just ready to move a little bit, because there might be a bit of dancing involved. Our first bit of entertainment is by the dance group Kimya Kimya, who is a group from Nairobi. Have been together for 7 years plus, were even winners of the Icon Dance Winners Competition for KTN. So let us put our hands together as we welcome to the stage our dance group Kimya Kimya to kick us off with a round of entertainment. Round of applause.
absolutely phenomenal. Another round of applause for our entertainers. I think I should be carrying a drum with me so that every time I'm encouraging applause, and like, yes? Kenya, even in our dancing, we reach for the skies. Our next item in our agenda is the Kenya Space Agency video documentary, which is about to start. This will be a short video on what the Kenya Space Agency has achieved in the last year. Over to the technical team.
Space, the final frontier. Since the beginning of the space race, nations have been rushing to tap into this limitless potential, and Africa is no exception. Leading these efforts from East Africa is Kenya, a country strategically located at the equator, making it a prime location for undertaking space endeavors. At the forefront is the Kenya Space Agency, an entity mandated to promote, coordinate, and regulate space-related activities in the country in a bid to explore possibilities beyond the skies.
By 2030, the space economy will be in the region of $1 trillion US. I mean, that is why every country is going to that area, and Kenya will not be left behind.
Kenya's involvement in space activities dates back to the 1960s, when Kenya partnered with Italy to establish a satellite launching and tracking base in Malindi. Originally the San Marco Equatorial Range, the Luigi Broglio Malindi Space Center was named after its founder, Professor Luigi Broglio, an Italian aerospace engineer and space pioneer who is also known today as the father of the San Marco program.
The one on the west coast, and the one on the west coast, Malindi, you can see that the telescope will be separated more or less over this Malindi station, and this Malindi station will also acquire the telemetry data from the telescope.
This has been instrumental in positioning Kenya as a player in the global space scene.
Those who launch satellites in the Americas have to be supported by the Malindi Space Center because of how strategic we are. When there is a launch of satellites, this Malindi Space Center becomes very critical because we are along the equator, we are on the ocean, we are far east.
The center provides training programs for personnel involved in space operations, and as well as students on attachment or internship, are therefore offering educational initiative to enhance the skills and knowledge of professionals in the space industry.
The Kenya Space Agency has achieved significant milestones in Earth observation, space systems engineering, disaster risk mitigation, among others.
Kenya Space Agency has been able to establish itself as a premier institution in promotion and coordination of space-related activities in the country. The early years focused on institutional development and grounding with focus on having resource instruments, capacity building, development of the strategic plan, and other enabling policy and strategic documents necessary for operationalization of the agency.
We work with stakeholders to demonstrate use of geospatial tools, applications, and space-derived datasets to develop decision support products. Such products include in-season crop mapping, crop condition monitoring, and crop yield estimation.
And in this regards, what we're trying to do is set up what we're calling the data hub. So the data hub will have three elements. It will have the data portal, it will have a data cube, and it will also have a data knowledge hub. And the intention of that is to bring together the different data sets that are of geospatial nature and also non-geospatial that are relevant for decision support.
We are also supporting the county governments in their spatial plan, whereby the agency aim to provide a high resolution imagery to support the counties in their spatial planning.
In space systems engineering, we have developed a number of projects. Key among them is Taifa-1 satellite, which we recently launched for Earth observation. In addition to this, we have a regional project called African Development Satellite Initiative, as well as a climate camera project that is a payload to be hosted on the International Space Station.
And Kenya's Taifa-1 satellite was successfully launched this morning.
Taifa-1 separation confirmed.
One of the notable achievements is the development and launch of Kenya's satellite Taifa-1 and the construction of a ground station to provide critical data for environmental monitoring, agriculture, and urban planning.
That ground receiver is able to receive data from the satellite, the other observation satellite that we launched, but also even receive data from other satellites that would be working with other partners. That is very, very significant development.
It continues to strengthen its stand in the continent through partnerships and collaborations with international organizations, space agencies, government departments, agencies, and county government, as well as private sector stakeholders.
So we needed Kenya Space Agency as an agency, a national agency that will coordinate with many other international space agencies so that they have a collaboration, and that will allow us as Kenyans to access to that Earth observation or satellite data at affordable prices.
The Kenya Space Agency envisions a future where space technology is central to the nation's development, driving innovation, economic growth, and sustainable development. The journey has just begun, and the possibilities are as vast as space itself.
Can we give a round of applause for that incredible video? Kenya Space Agency, possibilities beyond our skies. Please give an extra loud cheer if you saw yourself as well on that little video, and an extra loud cheer if you did not see yourself. One more time, round of applause for that event. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kenya Space Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, we now want to move on to an official remarks section. We have a few official remarks that we are going to listen to and invite some of our esteemed guests to give a few remarks and officially kick off the conference, starting, of course, with an individual who you have seen on the video and who is at the heart of the incredible work that we do here at the Kenya Space Agency. That is, of course, none other than Brigadier Hilary Kipkoskei, the Director General and the CEO of the Kenya Space Agency. Now, I'm going to read something small about him before he comes, and remember, let's give him a massive round of applause, and for all the speakers who come. Brigadier Hilary Kipkoskei is currently the Director General and CEO of the Kenya Space Agency, a position he assumed in June 2021 on secondment from the Kenya Defense Forces. He has served in numerous roles. Prior to this, he was the head of logistics and maintenance at the National Air Support Department, and he has had other appointments, which include defense attaché at the Kenyan Embassy in Washington, D.C. I'm going to keep this short. It's a very long bio, Brigadier, very impressive bio. He holds a Master's of Strategic Studies and Master of Science in Communication and Information Systems, a postgraduate diploma in Strategic Studies, and a Bachelor of Technology in Electrical and Communications Engineering. He is an alumnus of the U.S. Army War College, Pennsylvania, USA. His interest span policy, I said I'm keeping it short. His interest span policy, strategy information, information technologies, Earth observation and remote sensing applications, satellite communications, international space governance and cooperation, and space policy and law. Technically, I'm done. I could say a bit more, but, ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together and warmly welcome Brigadier Hilary Kipkoskei, the Director General and CEO for the Kenya Space Agency. Until he gets here, the man behind the fantastic work that we are doing. Round of applause for him. Thank you very much. Karibu, Brigadier.
Thank you very much, MC, Mr. Karagania. I didn't know where you get that from. Our chief guests are the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, the Honorable Anne Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, Honorable Saipan Tuya, Excellencies, the ambassadors and high commissioners present. And at this juncture, I would like also to recognize the presence of His Excellency Mr. Luis Alejandro Levitt, the Argentine ambassador to Kenya, and Her Excellency Madam Nicole Adamkova, the Czech embassy ambassador to Kenya. The Vice Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, Lieutenant General John Omenda, the Commander, Kenya Air Force, Major General Fatuma Hamed, the Principal Secretaries present, General Officers present, Chairman of the Kenya Space Agency Board of Directors, Major General James Arwasa, Vice Chancellors of universities and fellow CEOs of state agencies and other organizations present, KSA Board Directors, senior government officials, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome you to the 2024 edition of the Kenya Space Expo and Conference. We are greatly honored that you could find time out of your very busy schedule to join us. This conference is the second in a series of conferences held biennially and hosted by the Kenya Space Agency for the domestic space sector. The Kenya Space Agency is established as a state corporation with the main responsibility of nurturing Kenya's space sector. The primary focus of the agency is to enhance utilization of space science, technologies, and applications across the public sector entities for decision support and planning. And the agency seeks to develop national space capability to support socioeconomic development. Other priorities include promotion of the growth of the domestic space sector as the engine of growth for our space economy to make it contribute meaningfully to the national economy. For all of this to happen, there is need for public awareness, which brings us to the reason we are hosting this conference. The overarching purpose of the conference is to create awareness and elevate conversations around space exploration and exploitation to the national level involving key policy and decision makers. That is why in this conference, we have two high-level panels to start us off. It also provides the stakeholders and space enthusiasts with a platform for exchange of ideas, knowledge, sharing of experiences and lessons learned with the aim of bringing space closer to the common mwananchi and making it relatable. Space technologies and space-enabled technologies have become so pervasive and common use in our everyday life, yet majority of us take them for granted. When we speak about it, it sounds abstract. It sounds complex and distant or far removed from us. Yet we interact with space technology or space-enabled technologies almost every day, whether it be for navigation and positioning, automatic timing, weather forecasting, or even ride-sharing or ride-hailing. But this is not to say space is simple. It is actually hard, and yes, it is truly rocket science. Through the Expo and conference, we hope to simplify the subject and demonstrate its utility and the benefits we can derive from investing in and leveraging on space capabilities. So, if by the end of the third day, we will have convinced a few of us that space is important and it matters, we will consider this conference to have been successful. We look forward to winning over some converts, not out of mere rhetoric, but because the demonstrations of use cases from the deliberations and exhibitions will have borne us out and provided just a sneak preview of the endless possibilities of the utility and benefits to be derived from effective space exploration and exploitation. The key objectives of the Expo and conference have been availed in the conference document, some of them to showcase utilization of space technologies, to facilitate exchange of ideas, to foster stakeholder engagement, and to raise public awareness and so forth. In terms of the conduct, the structure of the conference entails 2 concurrent sessions, conference sessions, and an exhibition which will be run through 3 days. It will feature informative and insightful keynote speeches, expert presentations, and discussions on the following interesting topics, among others. 1, mainstreaming space economy in national development. Secondly, Earth observation applications for food security, biodiversity and natural resource conservation, sustainable urban development. Thirdly, Earth observation, data management and governance, space technologies for climate action, space systems engineering, enhancing connectivity, unlocking the potential of the private sector, exploring launch capabilities, capacity development in space science and engineering, opportunities for women in space and STEM sector, establishing an enabling legal framework for the space industry, and yes, very important, inspiring and mentoring the young generation. So what are some of the expected outcomes? We expect the following: identification of use cases of space-based applications and tools for sustainable socioeconomic development, enhanced awareness on socioeconomic benefits of space science and technology, promotion of development of the local and regional space industry, opportunities for collaboration, appreciation of essential policy, statutory and regulatory frameworks, and foster understanding of approaches for developing national space capability. In a very special way, I want to thank our sponsors for supporting us in hosting this conference. Without their support, this conference would not have been possible. I would like to make special mention of the following sponsors. We have our gold sponsors, which is UN Food and Agriculture Organization. We have also InSpace from India, and we have Expertise France. In our silver sponsors, we have SATHAD Africa Limited, we have Satlantis, and the Italian Space Agency. Among the bronze sponsors, we have a number of them: Planet, Endurosat, Telcom, Dhruva Space, Maxa, Star Vision, Cooperative Bank, Intelsat, Digital Earth Africa, Kenya Power, Communications Authority of Kenya, Safaricom, Defense Forces Canteen Organization, Equity Bank, the Age Convention Center itself, College of Insurance, Pittman Holdings Limited, Absa Bank, and Alto Hubs Limited. For all these sponsors, we truly appreciate your support. Chief guests, sir, allow me to acknowledge and recognize the presence of several distinguished guests in our midst. Because there are many, I will kindly request them to stand and wave if they are here. CEOs of state agencies or private organizations and their representatives, if they can just quickly, anybody, CEOs? Okay, they are waving. They don't want to stand. Vice chancellors of public institutions and representatives, they are also here. I also wish to recognize the following partners who are from outside our borders, who have graciously come to support us in this conference through participation in panel discussions and exhibitions. We have delegations from the Italian Space Agency. We have from InSpace from India. We have Dhruva Space from India. We have SATHAD. We have Star Vision. We have Maxa, Planet, from the US, we have Expertise France from France, Clyde Space from South Africa, Alto Hubs from the UK, Intelsat, and Endurosat, and many others. In conclusion, the chief guest, it is our hope that KSEC 2024 will realize a better understanding and appreciation of the utility and benefits of exploitation and exploration of outer space opportunities for Kenya's socioeconomic development, as well as providing a platform for interaction, exchange of ideas, and networking. The conference will serve to elevate national conversation on why space matters and inform policy interventions and priorities for the national space program. We look forward to exciting and insightful conversations. For this conference, we have chosen the tagline, Ignite, Innovate, Inspire. These are not just random words. Through this conference, we want to ignite conversations. We want to innovate solutions. And we want to inspire the current and next generation on why space matters. With these few remarks, it is now my pleasure to invite the chair of the KSA Board of Directors, Major General James Arwasa, to make his remarks and invite our chief guest to deliver his keynote address and officially open the Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024. Major General Retired Arwasa, sir.
Our chief guest, sir, Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Honorable Adan Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, Honorable Soipan Tuya, Excellencies, the Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the Vice Chief of the Defense Forces, Lieutenant General John Omenda, the Commander of the Kenya Air Force, Major General Fatou Mohammed, Principal Secretaries led by Honorable Patrick Mariru, PS for Defense, General Officers present, Acting Director General of the Kenya Space Agency, Brigadier Hilary Kipkoskei, Vice Chancellors of universities and CEOs of agencies and other organizations present, distinguished members of the Kenya Space Agency Board of Directors, senior government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you. It is my honor to address this distinguished gathering on the occasion of the opening ceremony of the second edition of the Kenya Space Expo and Conference. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Kenya Space Agency, which I lead, I wish to extend a warm welcome to all of you and say a special thank you to all of you for creating time to grace this very important occasion to us. In particular, we appreciate your presence, Honorable Cabinet Secretary for Defense, for honoring our invitation and joining us today on this auspicious occasion. We are also grateful to our sponsors as listed by the Director General, the organizers and management team of the Kenya Space Agency led by the CEO, whose hard work and dedication has made this event possible. The Kenya Space Agency was established, as said, in March of 2017 with the primary responsibility of nurturing Kenya's space sector. I have been privileged to be the chair of the inaugural board that was first gazetted in July 2018. And then again, it was renewed in October 2021 for a second and final term. And the board has guided and oversighted the direction of the Kenya Space Agency for that period of time. Please allow me, Honorable Chief Guest, to acknowledge the presence of the distinguished Board of Directors who are present in our midst this morning. If you can please stand up where you are, Board of Directors. Thank you. Please take a seat. We have Engineer Philip Nyakwaka. He's an independent member who is the chair of our Finance and Admin Committee. Ms. Joanne Chesoni, the representative of the Honorable Attorney General, and the State Law Office, who is the chair of the Governance Committee, Dr. Doris Muta, an independent member, who is the chair of the Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee, Mr. Stephen Situma, the alternate to Principal Secretary, State Department for Higher Education and Research, Major General Bernard Waliaula, who is the Director General of the National Security Industries Directorate and sits in the board as the representative of the Chief of the Defense Forces. Ms. Winnie Molonko, the alternate to the Principal Secretary, the National Treasury. Dr. Mushemi Gakuru, who is an independent member. Mr. Kennedy Okondo, he is the alternate to the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Defense. Ms. Agnes Yopterik, the alternate to the Principal Secretary, State Department for Forestry and Climate Change. Ms. Esther Kagunya, who is the alternate to the Principal Secretary, State Department of ICT and Digital Economy, who is not able to join us today owing to other commitments. There is much that has been said by the Acting Director General about the agency and the conference that we are attending from today. And I would not like to repeat or belabor the point. All I want to do is simply to underscore his remarks. We appreciate the support and strategic guidance that the board regularly receives from the parent ministry leadership, led by Honorable CS Defense, the Chief of the Defense Forces, the Principal Secretary Defense, and the entire KDF leadership. This is mainly why the agency has made such significant progress since its establishment. The agency also values the support we have received and continue to receive from our partners, a number of whom are represented here today. This conference would not be possible were it not for the material and in-kind support we have received from our sponsors and partners, local, regional, and international. We value international cooperation and look forward to strengthening them even more for the growth of our domestic space sector and national economy. I thank you all and look forward to useful interactions and creation of great networking while you are here. I now have the pleasure of inviting the chief guest, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Honorable Adan Bare Duale, to make his remarks. Honorable CSR, most welcome.
My colleague, my sister, the CS for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, the Honorable Soipan Tuya, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and High Commissioners present here, Principal Secretaries, the Vice Chief of Kenya Defense Forces, General Officers present, the Chairman of the Kenya Space Agency Board of Directors, the Acting Director General, Kenya Space Agency, CEOs of agencies and other organizations present, senior government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, our distinguished international guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to join you on this very important ceremony of the official opening of the second edition of the Kenya Space Expo and Conference. Indeed, I'm pleased to see partners and delegates from around the globe, which signifies the importance you attach to Kenya's space sector. To the delegates, as partners and friends who have joined us from other parts of the world, I say thank you for honoring us with your presence. I also thank the organizers of this conference for coming up with a very befitting theme for the conference, Space Technology for Societal Benefits. This seeks to bring the complex topic of space science and technologies closer home and make it relevant to our ordinary citizens. The government of Kenya acknowledges the critical role that the space economy can play in national development, particularly in the realization of the National Development Blueprint Vision 2030, the MTP4 plan, and our administration's bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Space technology and related applications support key productive sectors of our national economies, including communication, the digital economy, agriculture and food security, natural resources, transportation, supply chain, infrastructure, the blue economy, and the energy. They also enable the environmental monitoring and facilitate mitigation of the contemporary threats to human security and public safety. These include climate change, extreme weather events, natural disasters, famine and drought, among others. According to a survey report released by the world-renowned McKinsey and Company on the 8th of April 2024, the global space economy stood at US $630 billion in 2023 and is projected to reach US $1.8 trillion by 2035. The space economy is expected to become very ambitious. It's going to create value for multiple industries and solutions to many of the world's pressing challenges. Consequently, space will constitute a larger part of the global economy by 2035, with the growth expected to be driven by space-based or space-enabled technologies such as communication, the positioning, the navigation, and the timing, and Earth observation included. Kenya, as a country, cannot afford to be left behind in this favorable future outlook for global space economy. And that's why our government is undertaking or is taking our national space program very, very seriously, and we are committing to invest all the necessary resources in order to recoup on the returns on investment, which include economic, technological, social, and geopolitical benefits. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on the international cooperation front, Kenya values the wide-ranging collaboration initiatives with our international partners, and regional partners, that has enabled us become an emerging and a developing space-faring nation. We will gain a foothold in the global space arena. Through collaboration, Kenya has built a human and technical capacity and national capability in space science, space system engineering, Earth observation, and remote sensing. We have created space policy and necessary legislative programs, including the development of applications for harnessing space drive data. The collaboration have also facilitated sharing of lessons learned, exchange of ideas on the best practice and innovations. In this regard, we value our long-standing strategic relationship Kenya continues to enjoy with our partners, the Italian Republic, on collaboration on peaceful use of outer space through our center in Malindi, our Malindi Space Center. At the Malindi facility, plans are underway to establish a center for Earth observation with assistance from the Italian Space Agency. This center will provide Kenya with access to numerous Earth observation and remote sensing datasets and processing capability for decision making, support, and planning. In addition, the Italian Space Agency, our key partners, will establish an international training center for space education and a center for CubeSat development, which is intended for training and apprenticeship of our budding engineers on space system engineering and our specialization. I am also very happy to report that the government of the Italian Republic has provided 15 fully paid PhD scholarships on Earth observation to Kenyan nationals, and the nominees of the PhD program will begin their studies in September of this year. We thank the government of the Italian Republic for its invaluable support extended to us through our enduring partnership on the space. We also want to appreciate the collaboration and capacity building assistance we have received from the United Nations Office of Outer Space, the Arab Republic of Egypt, and our most valuable friend at the Ministry of Defense, the Republic of India, all of them targeted at capacity building. I'm happy to note that in the spirit of intra-Africa cooperation, as envisioned in the AU Agenda 2063, Kenya is ready and actively pursuing collaboration initiatives on the peaceful use of outer space with the partners in our region, including but not limited to the Republic of South Africa, Angola, Rwanda, Uganda, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt, not leaving Algeria, Nigeria, and Ghana. Their collaboration initiatives are targeted in developing indigenous capacity in space systems and to enhance the utilization of space services, technologies, and applications in order to improve our socio-economic development through joint projects. For example, through the partnership with Egypt and Uganda, we have developed an imaging system that will be hosted on the International Space Station for monitoring climate change. Further, Kenya is collaborating with Egypt, Ghana, Nigeria, and Uganda to build an Earth observation satellite for environmental monitoring in our region. These are just but only a few of the many initiatives we are undertaking in partnership with the states, regional bodies, and international organizations, not just to build capacity, but to facilitate regional economic integration. I recall with a lot of nostalgia in the 80s when the land economists used paper maps and physical surveys for land use planning and assessment. Today, satellite imagery, global navigation satellite system, geographical information system, and other digital technologies have increased the efficiency and the accuracy in mapping, in spatial planning, in infrastructure planning, and land use monitoring. These technologies also form a very solid foundation for effective digital land governance in many countries, including Kenya. In line with this year's space event, Space Technology for Societal Benefits, it's my hope that the discussion and the exhibition will indeed demonstrate the use of space science, technology, and application in improvement of the quality of life and enable socio-economic development. Further, I hope we will be able to develop a better understanding and appreciation of the benefits of exploitation and exploration of the outer space opportunities in Kenya's socio-economic development, and further provide a platform where we can interact, where we can exchange ideas, and we can network for posterity. As I conclude, I wish to appreciate the commitment of the Arab Republic of Egypt in hosting the Africa Space Agency and look forward to involvement of Kenya in providing the requisite human capital and participation in the development and implementation of its policies. of its strategies and projects and programs. To the rest of the continent and our esteemed partners present here, we are hopeful for a future of beneficial collaboration for the people, for the planet, for the prosperity, peace, and partnership as emphasized in the UN Sustainable Development Goals and in the African Union Agenda 2063. With those many remarks, I now declare the Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024 officially open. Thank you, and God bless you.
A rousing round of applause for our chief guest. Keep clapping until he is seated. Thank you very much, our chief guest, for those stratospheric remarks. I'm sure that the crowd is galvanized to explore all the avenues space can benefit the world that we live in. And thank you very much for officially opening the second edition of the Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024. We will swiftly move on to the first high-level panel for the conference. This panel is entitled Mainstreaming Space Economy in National Development. Our keynote speech is going to be given by Ambassador Philip Thigo, and I'd like to introduce him. He is a technology and public policy expert. He is a special envoy on technology for the Republic of Kenya. He has been the executive director for Africa for the Thunderbird School for Global Management and advisor on open government for the government of Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Special Envoy on Technology and the Office of the President, Ambassador Philip Thigo.
I'm supposed to be a techie. This is funny. Good morning, everybody. Honorable Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Eden Duale, Honorable Soipan Tuya, Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. If you will allow me, all protocols observed. My role here is very simple, and thank you so much once again for the Kenya Space Agency for inviting me, second year running. We were there in 2017 when the current president was trying to get the board set up. He did that in less than 3 months in his lightning speed of how he does things. And I think from that day, it's been quite interesting how Kenya has grown in terms of engaging in the space economy. A lot of the sponsors here, I think, have been nurtured by the Space Agency, but also because that was a good signal that Kenya was ready for space and space exploration, from Digital Earth Africa, which Kenya sits in the board, to the Global Partnership on Sustainable Development Data, but also enabled some of us to sit in the board of NASA around EO for SDGs. I don't know this thing. Somebody can help me at the back. I think the idea of space today is not the idea of space in 40 or 50 years ago. We keep on saying that if you have an iPhone, I don't know about any other phone, that an iPhone that we have is 200 times more powerful than the computer that sent the first man to the moon. That's a capability that we have right now. Next. And so if you look at the evolution of space, from then when there was the first rocketry invested in China, next to the first space race, right, which was around the 1955, to then in 1972, where we now know the first iteration of the first iteration of space, where a lot of the satellites we're using. whether it's Sentinel or that was when it came. And then that was when we started thinking how we're going to stay in space. But I think to the previous speakers, and you can see that was 2015, now we are thinking, how do we do things there, right? From before, what are we going to do there, to how do we do things there? And we've heard about the space and the space economy. But I think also the interesting part, I think, of where we are right now is really the democratization of space. So Kenya having a very nascent space program can actually compete competitively without necessarily investing heavily on the large-scale infrastructure like we saw previously. But I think this is always where the issue is. Are we investing in space? You can see the big countries, right, from the US, and that's in terms of millions of dollars, to China, to European, and then very few African countries, whether it's South Africa, Angola, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and I think we need to do more. And I'm always an advocate for the Kenya Space Agency, where I think we need to put more money. If you've had the keynote from the Honorable Minister, if space is really at the core of everything we do, then I think we need to really invest in space. And so if you continue to think around this trajectory around the space race, unlike any other region, you can see in Africa, rather than even increasing investment, we've reduced the investment by 27%. And so there's something there, that when the world is understanding and recognizing the importance of the space economy, in Africa we seem to be going backwards. Can we begin to also join everybody else in terms of how we continue to invest in space? I would not go there. I think this has been belabored. But I think the most important point is that we have a history. Whether or not the Space Agency was formed in 2017, Kenya has always historically been in the space race. So this is not new to us. And so it should never be seen as a new thing. But then if you look at the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and I think from the previous speakers, I can tag every single priority to space. How many people took an Uber today? Ordered food in the weekend? It was a long weekend. And this is the point. A lot of us see the launches, see all the big things, but we forget that we use space every day. And so in all those applications, if you look at the sectors, and it's really everywhere, even the media folks with cameras, you actually use space. If you look at the photos you take right now, they're already geotagged. They already have a geolocation. So the photos you take already have a location. And so we cannot say we don't use space, and so this is how we see it, that we need to continue to invest more in space. And I think CS has mentioned this in terms of what the industry is worth this year and what it will be worth in the next couple of years. But I think it is important, because the topic of the day is to figure out how is space helping in everyday issues. And I think the influences, and I wanted to do the second thing because I think that's where Kenya has innovated around mobile money, is that even that uses space applications. That's how your credit scoring is done. That's how your wallets are understood. That's how we understand a lot of the potential economic value of space. And so, again, my issue is that it is in everyday use. You use it whether you know or not, and so we need to get everybody to engage. Quickly, in terms of what I've seen happening in Kenya, and this is an initiative led by His Excellency, the President is really figuring out how do we begin to use space in a way that really works. And so this is an initiative run from his office around conservation at scale. And the idea really is, in 2024, how can we use space to enable the tree planting initiative? And what we see here is basically figuring out how to layer the capabilities of space to map an already existing forest, to map it in pixels so private sector can understand, and to resource the pixels. It's quite an interesting innovation, right? So how do you resource a pixel in a way that people can adopt a pixel by pixel by a pixel? Interesting enough, one company that was never thought was in space has adopted it. So I think Diageo was the first company to put $1 million behind this, and so that's what space can do. Easily demystify and enable people to even understand or resource initiatives that were previously thought we're very far from there. The second initiative that I want to bring in very quickly again, something that was an all-in, almost a village collaboration by everybody, was simply to think about how do we begin to understand the ravages of climate, because they're becoming very frequent. Whether flood in November, whether flood in early March, this initiative was less than 8 days, all-in effort by everybody, from MERA to Google, to Kenya Red Cross, to the Kenya Defense Force, to IBM, and interesting enough, how using space, we were able to map the entire country, including damages, including predicting landslides, including locating hospitals, including locating for the first time, I think, how many know of a fire assembly point? It's a standard thing, right? If there's a fire assembly point. Do we have a flood assembly point? So for the first time, I think, because of space, we're going to have it. And this is, in 8 days, right? So it tells you these things can move very quickly. And you can see how then you start to preposition places like hospitals or camps in areas that are not landslide or are at risk. To the innovators, and I never forget my folks, this is a Kenyan company using satellite data Earth observations for emergency services. And look at number 3, for the first time, being able to reduce ambulance response time from 169 minutes to 15 minutes. I dare any other country that can match this. In the room, if you know, please raise your hand if you're not Kenyan. And so we are leading in a lot of these things, and that is really the point that I wanted to make in this presentation. That space is not new, that Kenya is leading a lot of these things, and if people are given the opportunity to sort of invest, they can do better. And so if you look at, for me, I really want to double this down, and I know San Marco has been mentioned a lot of times. It is our infrastructure. I think we need to invest in that. We need to continue this powerful stakeholder engagement, because it's important to show use cases and what is possible, but also to bring collaboration. We need to also see, again, going to the investment in space and space-related activities, and I think it starts there. The National Spatial Data Infrastructure. So Honorable CS, if you can really help the agency get this infrastructure done, I think it will help the entire economy and the entire industry, because that's what it does. NSDI improves decision-making, enhances collaboration, which is what this summit does, focuses on economic development, which speaks to the president's bottom-up economic agenda, of course, focuses on environmental and resource management, which is Honorable Sulpan's docket, but I think the idea of public access and transparency, because Kenyan constitution demands public engagement in a lot of these things. I think finally, for me, we're in another frontier now. We cannot be talking about space as if we're talking about space before 2022. And we know what happened in 2022 with the rise of generative artificial intelligence. I think there's a big opportunity now. We could not have done what we did for 8 days if we don't use AI previously, because it will have taken us just a long time to do a lot of these things. But also we can predict, and we can recognize patterns in a way that then we begin to save resources, but also be very timely in terms of how we respond to things. And so this is a slide I borrowed from Esri, but this is where we're going in terms of geo-AI, in terms of how do we, again, begin to leverage artificial intelligence for information decision-making around Earth observations and space, but also for sustainable development goals. I'll be remiss not to sell this country. When I was here last year, I was in a different hat. And I think we just come from the US-Africa Summit. And we hosted something with the Space Agency and the US government, and to our shock, is NASA has done the calculations. Out of nothing that we did, just because of location, Kenya still remains the best location for launch pads. I'll repeat, the best location for launch pads. The math has been done. At the equator, easterly facing, easterly spinning, and I think the PS had mentioned that in the video. And so beyond simply the activities that we do, we need to step up on the plate and start to lead in the space economy, because we are hands down the cheapest so far, but also because of our green energy, because of our supply chain diversification, because of our innovativeness, and because of the industry that is thriving in this country. Quickly, I think for me, just to almost to end, is to say we need to collaborate more. We are seeing more action around private sector. You've seen what NASA has done around collaborating with SpaceX and Blue Origin, and you've seen sort of how space has grown just because of private sector, and we need to do more in this country. The other piece we need to do is just invest in this ecosystem. And I see Professor Maglet there around citizen science and working with citizens in terms of how they leverage in this big infrastructure. But I think we need to do all this at the same time. Invest in the infrastructure, invest in the data, invest in the skills and capacities, invest in collaborations and partnerships. How do we finance this more resourcefully and innovatively? And how are we agile in the governance of space? Because then we don't want to put legislation that stifles innovation and space science. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
A rousing round of applause for Ambassador Thigo. Yes, excellent. How exciting. Invest in Kenya simply because it's just the best place to have a launch pad. I don't know. We learn new things, and I'm looking forward to hearing a flood assembly point launched for the whole nation. I learned it first here in the second Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024. I would now like to call on our moderator for our first high panel. Our moderator might not be strange in his face to you, but I want to demystify him a little bit. Karaganya Mwamlole is an award-winning, problem-solving, ever-smiling computer scientist, media and communications practitioner, educator, and leadership specialist with an authentic excitement for that sweet spot where technology, education, communication, and social impact converge. I think we have the right moderator for our first panel. A rousing round of applause with ululations for Karaganya Mwamlole. Woo!
Daktari, I am happy that the amount I paid you before to read that with that energy was suffice. Next time I will double the amount and we can extend my bio a little bit. I don't know where she got that from. That was not from me. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very brief high-level panel discussion that we want to talk to, and I'll invite our speakers in a moment to take their seats here with us. But just to let you know the discussion that we want to do, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD Handbook on Measuring the Space Economy, defines space economy as a full range of activities and the use of resources that create value and benefits to human beings in the course of exploring, researching, understanding, managing, and utilizing outer space. The space sector is not only a growth sector itself. We've just heard Ambassador Thigo mention that. We've heard our Director General mention that. It's not only a growth sector in itself, but it's also a vital enabler of growth in other sectors. Appropriately harnessed, there are many things we can do. Space-derived data can benefit, has the potential to provide solutions across the board. I'm not going to go and list them all, but we know land and physical planning, food security, environmental monitoring, natural resources management. We've seen transportation. We've seen climate change monitoring and adaptation, many, many uses. And the purpose of this panel is really to explore that, mainstreaming the space economy in national development with several high-level officials. Cabinet ministers will be joining us, and ambassadors of foreign missions. So what's going to happen is I'm going to invite them all, one at a time. They will come and they'll take their seats, and then we shall begin our very brief discussion. We're going to abbreviate it a little bit, just so that we did save on a bit of the time that we lost in the morning when we started. But I encourage our panelists, take your time. Talk as long as you need to. I will politely cut you off should that time arrive. Okay? The first panelist I would like to welcome, and again, this is in no particular order, is the High Commissioner of the Republic of India to Kenya, Her Excellency, Ms. Namgia Kampa. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes to her seat. Yes, she is, of course, she's a career diplomat with extensive experience in China and the United Nations. She has advanced degrees in international relations and has served on the executive board of the UNDP and UNFPA. Please, karibu Balozi. The next ambassador I would like, or the next panelist I would like to invite is none other than our chief guest, Honorable Aden Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes. We all know, of course, that Honorable Duale is responsible for policy formulation and strategic direction. Thank you, Dr. Yes, the applause should not stop. He is responsible for policy formulation, strategic direction in the Ministry of Defense, and he has served 3 consecutive terms in Kenya's National Assembly, holds degrees in education, bachelor's in business administration. So everybody in Kenya knows Honorable Duale, and we're very happy that you're here with us, sir. Next, I would like to invite to the stage another Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Soipan Tuya, the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. Let's give her a round of applause, massive round of applause. Karibu Waziri. She will sit next to our Honorable Chief Guest. And of course, we all know Honorable Tuya is a 2-term Member of Parliament and an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. She has led initiatives focused on women's rights and environmental governance, and we're very excited to hear what she will say with us today. Our second to last, in terms of the order I'm listening, again, no particular order, is His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Italian Republic to Kenya, Your Excellency Roberto Natali. He is here with us. Let's give him a round of applause as he joined us to the stage. Also a very accomplished and experienced diplomat. He has a distinguished career in diplomacy, having served in Ecuador and Finland, where he was actually involved in Finland's accession to the European Union, and he currently represents Italy in Kenya and the Seychelles. Last, but certainly not least, and I'm just pausing because I can see he's talking final adjustments on how we go. Our panelists, you all have water and a microphone. Excellent, he is ready. Please put your hands together for His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Arab Republic of Egypt to Kenya, Mr. Wael Nasruddin Al-Tia, who is, of course, joining us as well as our final panelist. So if you can please take the final seat. He is a seasoned diplomat with over 3 decades of experience, particularly in human rights. He has served in various capacities, including as Egypt's ambassador to the State of Palestine and Deputy Assistant Foreign Minister for the Human Rights. I'm now going to go and join them here. And just to confirm that we all have a microphone with us that we can use. Fantastic. Okay, so the microphones are off, and ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a very brief discussion. I think we might have a few visuals as well as we go along. I'm going to ask each of them a question. Let's follow and listen in attentively to all our panelists who are here with us. My apologies, I'm going to be using the term balozi for our ambassadors. That is a Kenyan word for ambassador. Just so that if you hear that, don't wonder who are we calling. That's just about all the Swahili I know, so I hope we will do well together with that. Without much further ado, namaste, karibuni, assalamu alaikum, buongiorno, tagwenya, karibuni tena. Let us actually begin this discussion. Balozi Kampa, I'd love to start with you, and a very, very simple question. I think the Indian journey in space has been remarkable, transformative over the last few decades. Can you share with us India's journey to becoming a power in space exploration and exploitation? And maybe a small follow-up would be, based on India's experiences, how can developing countries like Kenya develop indigenous space capabilities to address pressing development challenges?
Good morning and namaskar and hamjambo. First, let me just express my pleasure at being part of this very eminent panel and congratulate the Kenya Space Agency under the leadership of Cabinet Secretary Duale for the 2nd edition of this Space Expo and Conference. I look forward to very engaging conversations and fruitful outcomes, and the stage has been set by Ambassador Thigo in his powerful exposition on why this matters to Kenya and to the world at large. Coming to your question, Mr. Moderator, India's space journey has truly been incredible, and the story goes back to 1962, which is the genesis of India's space program, and I promise to keep this brief so it won't be a huge historical outline of our space journey, but just to capture the beginning, 1962. In 1969, India created its National Space Agency, which is called the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO. And since then, ISRO has grown from strength to strength, to today arguably becoming the most cost-effective space program in the world. And it has hit many momentous milestones, including the landing on the south pole of the moon last year, a soft landing that was a first for any country in the world. And what has really distinguished ISRO and its accomplishments in India's space journey has been high science and low cost, and frugal space engineering. This is something that we have developed based on our national circumstances and excelled in it, if I might add. And if you look at, and I'm not sure if there are studies out there, there are a lot of space enthusiasts and space experts here, perhaps you can shed better light, but if you look at returns on per dollar of investment into the space sector, I would argue that India would be right up there on the top in terms of our returns on per dollar of investment in the space sector. And the results have been lauded nationally and internationally over recent years. Many of you perhaps know this. It's an interesting statistic that I like to quote. Our mission to the Mars was about 74 million US dollars. Our mission to the moon last year, the Chandrayaan mission, the soft landing that we achieved in August last year, was about 75 million US dollars. And there are movies in Hollywood, many of you would have seen them, including movies like Interstellar, Gravity, that have cost upwards of $100 million to make the movie, whereas we've actually sent the missions to space in less than that cost. So frugal engineering has been really at the heart of what ISRO's achievements have been about and suit our national circumstances as a developing country. ISRO's activities have broadly been focused on three verticals. The first in terms of satellite fabrication and satellite development for remote sensing and communications largely. The second is in terms of the development of space transportation systems and launch vehicles, and the third is in the area of space applications. And I just want to add that we are now at another critical lift-off stage in India's space journey, excuse the bad pun. And that is fueled by reforms, crucial reforms that have been undertaken in the last 4 years by the government of India. One is to open the sector to private sector players. And India has liberalized the space economy in India for private sector participation, and in 2020 has created a dedicated single window agency under the government called InSpace, one of the partners for this event we have here today. And InSpace is meant to promote, regulate, and facilitate private sector participation in the space economy in India, among other things. The second thing that India has done in the last 4 to 5 years is to liberalize foreign investment into India's space economy, and we today allow 100% foreign direct investment under both the automatic route as well as the prior approval route for foreign investment into all aspects of the space economy. And this has further opened up the sector for positioning it for an exponential jump. And we have also issued the National Space Policy last year that really puts into place a predictable framework and a division of labor, as well as identifies priorities in the development of the space industry in India. And we are very bullish in India on mainstreaming the space economy into our national journey and on the spin-offs from that for India's space sector, because for us, the theme that you've chosen for your expo this year resonates loud and clear. The underlying philosophy of India's space sector has principally been how do we utilize advanced technologies for the real problems that we face in our society, that people face. And I want to really use something that Prime Minister Modi, Narendra Modi, said last year, which is that there should be no space between society and space technologies, between the common man and space technologies. And this is really for us been the guiding light in terms of our space endeavors in India. And we believe in strong international partnerships in that regard, and that in some ways takes me to your question on how can we do more with Kenya, or whether there are any useful frames of reference for Kenya in this. And I think that I don't want to presume what Kenya should be doing in this regard, because for me, very important from where I sit and from India's experience is that there is no one-size-fits-all sort of template to borrow. We have to look at our own national circumstances in terms of what we evolve in a space framework. But certainly, a couple of things that strike me. One is that we don't necessarily need to reinvent the whole wheel in terms of how capital intensive this sector is, and we can leverage international partnerships and collaboration. India itself is doing more with our partners around the globe, including Kenya, on capacity building and on developing geospatial information networks with Kenya. And we believe that there is much more that is possible in this regard. CS Duale mentioned about all the activities and initiatives that Kenya is undertaking with its international partners. I think the second is around awareness, and I heard that also in the DG's speech, that we have to build awareness and a vibrant discourse around how space sector can benefit the economy, because there is really no stark boundary anymore between what constitutes space and what constitutes non-space activities. And we heard from Ambassador Tigo a lot of applications in our daily economic life and a lot of economic spin-offs from that for the country in all sectors. So that is certainly something there, and to support innovation and to support inclusive and democratic participation in space economy through private sector participation, through participation of international partners and other agencies that are involved, to inculcate a strong discourse around the youth of the country, because the space leaders of tomorrow will be made today, and how that can help in the national journey of a country. I probably have exceeded your time duration by a lot, but I'll just leave these initial thoughts for now.
Thank you so much, Balozi. I'll allow it because there is so much that we can learn. Yes, we can give her a round of applause. I think the startups, private sector are very excited to hear what India is doing to open up the market to them. And of course, our engineers in the building, Kenya Space Agency, making it frugal space engineering is something we're excited for. Thank you very much for those remarks. Balozi, Natalie, I'm going to come to you because Kenya and Italy have a very long relationship of friendship when it comes to many areas, but including space technology and space exploration. Italian Republic itself is a great power in space exploration and exploitation. What lessons can we learn as Kenya from the Italian Republic when it comes to developing our sector, our space sector?
Good morning. First of all, allow me to say a special thank you to the Kenya Space Agency for inviting me in this very important conference about space, and to have the opportunity to take part in this panel with His Excellency, the CS of Defense, Aden Duale, and Her Excellency, the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Forestry, and climate change. Yeah, sorry, exactly. So what lesson? I don't think that we have to give lessons. We have to learn lessons together. And this is the first point. And the first lesson we have to learn together is that in this field, space exploration and investigation, no country can act alone, in the sense that the key word is cooperation, international cooperation. We have an example. Even the United States, that as we know are a superpower in this sense, carry out their activities in space in synergy with other countries. For instance, Italy, not only for the International Space Station, in which Italy has made a lot of stuff inside the station, but also, for instance, with Sonda Cassini, which is a special high-tech device to explore the planet of Mars. So we are working on that. But coming to the relation with Kenya, it has been said that Kenya has this wonderful location on the equatorial line, which must be used to develop this activity. It's so important. And so thanks to an officer and an engineer, an Italian officer engineer in the 60s, who had this vision. This is something unbelievable, because I couldn't imagine someone at that time making these studies and saying this is the place, and also starting with all the connections and all the relations with the government of Kenya of the time, to place in the outskirts of Malindi this important center. This is something which is a joy and a point of reference for our bilateral relations. And we have decided as embassy and also the Italian Space Agency to give a tribute to this Italian Broglio, and we have out in the corridor, we put some panels with his history, which is the history of Italy and Kenya.
Fantastic.
In this sector. I don't know, I can go, oh no. You want
I would love you to keep talking. I'll give you a few more minutes, Bolozi. I'm really excited to hear about the booth that is outside.
Okay, now the other important keyword is education. It's so important to work to educate young people, young students in this sector, which is already an important sector. We have seen how much it's important, how many things satellite science can do. But this is also the future, and we know that. This is the future, and we want that Kenyan students who already have the big chance of speaking perfect English at every level. This is important because English is the language of this science, of space, and this is something that can be underlined and must be underlined. And the Malindi Center, San Marco Station, should be and could be a center for training young people, not only of Kenya, but also of the African countries. And this means that Kenya can become a hub for this important science of the future.
Grazie, Balozi.
Prego.
That's the only Italian I know. Let's give him a round of applause as well. Thank you so much for that. And I think also thank you for being such a long-standing partner and friend when it comes to space exploration and exploitation here in Kenya. We do appreciate it, and I think the Kenya Space Agency has several initiatives around education and awareness. It's one of the core tenets and objectives. So we're very excited to understand that we are on the right track. Thank you very much for that. Our chief guest, Honorable Dwale, you're a very, very, again, experienced politician and diplomat and technocrat here in Kenya as well. And you're aware of how Kenya operates and the limits of our international cooperation and the bounds or the limitlessness of it. Maybe my question to you is, how can international collaboration between developed and developing countries accelerate the use of space-related technologies and other emerging technologies for societal good?
Thank you very much. Let me first thank the organizers for elevating the whole issue of space to a national conversation, and how national development and collaboration with international partners and governments can help the Kenya Space Agency. I think a lot is happening globally and even regionally and even in our country on how space is so important in the socio-economic and national development of many countries. And to start with, we can use the space in terms of data. Data is very, very important to policymakers, to government, to private sector, and to public entities. The beginning of everything that you do is you get the right data. You use the historical data, you compare it with the current data. So from the use of that data, space data,
in creating smart cities, for example, smart transport, smart agriculture, dealing with the environment. And that's why my colleague, the Minister for Climate Change and Environment, food security is very critical for the space, information and data, to control floods and predict floods, to predict rain, to preserve our environment and forestry. These are very, very key. Use the space in even defense, in terms of surveillance, border control. So space is critical now to national development. From now where we sit as Kenya Space Agency, for us to reach where we want to, and not only us, even as the Ambassador of Italy and Ambassador, High Commissioner of India said, you cannot work and improve on space agency in isolation. In fact, if there's one sector that requires partnership, both at the regional and international level, is space. And that's why I can sit here without fear of any contradiction. I have been to India, and I have gone through their development of space agency. In fact, I was there, I think 1 week, 2 weeks after the satellite that they went to the moon. I was in Italy, and I went to all the Italian space agency. And I've seen how those countries have really invested and developed and are making use of space in all spheres of life, from security to economic development to social issues of community. So it's very, very key. And that's why in the last 6 months, at cabinet level, the government of Kenya, we have solidified and make serious commitment to our partners, whether it's India, Italian Republic, whether it's our African colleagues, the Republic of Egypt, where the African Space Agency headquarters is established, in Europe, talk of all those countries in Europe, including Ukraine, France, and we are doing that because for us to make use of the good location that we have in Kenya, that our location is critical, our stability in the region. Kenya is an anchor state, is the most stable country in our region. So stability is very key for the development of space. Our human capital, Kenya is known for serious human capital in our region. So all those factors favor the expansion of the space agency working together with our partners. And I want to assure the audience that going forward, the Ministry of Defense, where the Kenya Space Agency is domiciled, will do whatever it takes globally to make sure that we develop a very robust, serious space infrastructure that both us as a country and our partners globally will use it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Honorable Dwale, our chief guest. I think for all our international partners from other diplomatic missions, as our CS has said, we are in a perfect position. Kenya is positioned perfectly. We're stable economically, we are leaders in the region, we have the manpower, the human resource, the intellectual capacity, even our physical location on the world map at the equator is perfect for space exploration and exploitation. So let us work together as our CS has encouraged. I want to thank our Egyptian ambassador for being patient enough to wait for his turn to speak. Honorable Sawyer, we're going to let you close off the initial remarks, so we're saving the best for last, aren't we all? But our esteemed Egyptian ambassador, Your Excellency, what role, we've just heard from our cabinet secretary on what we intend to do as a Kenyan government and how we can really cooperate, but maybe on a broader level, what role should governments play in developing countries? Because you have the unique context of Africa and you know, the challenges that we face. What role should we play in developing and promoting and fostering the use of space technologies for societal benefits?
Thank you for the question, and thank you, first of all, for inviting me to be part of this panel and conference. Normally, or it's in the back mind, you know, given the space race between the superpowers and the Cold War, you know, that space is all about military and about security issues. But probably it was at that point of time. But now things have developed a lot, and there are peaceful applications, many peaceful applications to space technology, and they are widely available to all countries in the world to make benefit of them. They could be used in urban planning, they could be used in agriculture, in many ways in agriculture, and I'll speak a little bit about agriculture because I know Kenya is an agricultural country, in Egypt too. Large number of the population works in agriculture, so it has actually, these applications have affected the lives of many in Egypt as well. The applications could even go as far as helping to explore the natural resources in the country, which has happened with Egypt, for example, a country with limited water resources. We've managed to monitor the water that we have, not only overground but also underground, and the aquifers that we have, that also using different technologies, including satellite and space technology. So I think these are elements that could be widespread in different countries. A country like Kenya, you know, there are various possibilities for using space technology in deciding in which areas you should grow which crop and which time of year, for example, to follow up on the crop that you are growing in this area, and to see if there's any defects with the crop so that you can actually try to mitigate any damage that would happen. You can also decide on the amount of water needed, if it needs irrigation, regular irrigation, or if it could only depend on water rainfalls. You can also decide on the inputs in agriculture. You know, of course, that pesticides as well as fertilizers are being used in agriculture, but at the same time, they have, as the Honorable CS for Environment would tell, of course, they have negative effects on the environment as well, on the carbon dioxide emissions. So you could actually manage to decrease the amount of pesticides that are being used, and you can decide on the amount of water. We all know that agriculture consumes about 2/3 of fresh water worldwide. So basically, you can decrease that with the right information and data that you can get from satellites and from other technologies. So these are elements that could be used in a country. But then, in order to do that, you have to promote the knowledge and the uses, different uses of this technology to the whole public in different fields. So farmers have to know about this. Planners, of course, they have to know about this. Different industries as well. You can also monitor the climatic change, whether there is, you can predict, for example, if there is a drought coming or if there are floods. You can monitor the seashore erosions and their effects on the fisheries, and as well as the communities on these areas. So there are huge areas in which you can use these technologies. In Egypt, for example, I would make a few remarks just to highlight some of these challenges that we've managed to overcome with the use of different technologies, including space technology. For example, in agriculture, we've managed to increase the overall irrigated and agricultural land in Egypt from 6.5 million acres to 10.4 million. And we are planning to increase that to 14 million in the coming 6 years. We've managed to allocate which lands are best to use for agriculture and which lands are best to use for industrial zones and so on. So that helped us a lot in planning. In terms of the productivity as well, we've managed to increase the productivity of an acre of wheat from 8 irdab. Irdab is, I think, is about 5.6 something bushels. So you can make the calculation. So from 8 irdab to 20, that is over 100 bushels per acre, and that is for wheat. And recently, in some areas in Egypt, we've managed to bring this number up to 30 irdab, which is over 160 bushels per acre of wheat. At the same time, when it comes to corn, for example, we've managed to get the average up to 20, and in some areas, it could actually reach 33 irdab times 5.6.
Wow.
So that's again, over 170 bushels per acre. So these are things that you could use such technologies in, and you can increase productivity. And at the same time, of course, it would help with food security, which is very important for many countries in our region, and make better use of the limited water resources that we have. You could tell which areas that you can use. For example, there are many arid and semi-arid areas in northern part of Kenya and eastern part, and these could actually be used for agriculture very easily. But you have to apply the right technology, and you know exactly where to and how to do that. I'll stop here. I think I've exceeded my time.
Please, a round of applause for His Excellency Althea. I think it's really eye-opening. 100% increase in some cases, 500% increase in crop production, and the specific applications. I think there's a lot that we can definitely take, and we look forward to enhancing that cooperation. I think Egypt has always been a long trade partner for Kenya. Your winters, our summers, the amount we can do with those crop cycles, I think, is incredible, and we're excited to really continue this collaboration. We only have maybe one more question to our Honorable CS for Environment, and then I might ask you all for maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then we can wrap up this session, so we won't be here too much longer. But Honorable Soipan Tuya, our CS for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, we've heard of some specific applications around agriculture, and I know there's a lot of leakage we can even transfer over to our environment industry. But what opportunities do you see, space technologies, what opportunities can they deliver? Where is that room for growth and application that will derive essentially the greatest impact in your ministry?
Thank you very much for this chance. And I start off by thanking my brother and colleague for inviting me to this very important expo with a very pertinent theme of space technologies for societal benefits. When I think about the theme itself, it's about bringing the space technology down to the people to speak to the needs of our populations. And I have also had a very thrilling moment this morning with the very high-octane entertainment, which makes space science look fun. you know, with the presentations by the Kimia dancers. I felt like maybe that's how it would feel like being in the moon, going to the moon.
It absolutely is, and I think next time we'll invite you to the stage as well. A round of applause for that. Thank you.
The only thing they forgot to tell us is not to try what they were doing here at home. And I think it's important for us to take that back home. I will be very brief, just giving thematic statements on what I feel is of critical importance for the environment and climate change, and indeed forestry, the importance of the space technology and science. And I want to thank the Kenya Space Agency and of course the Ministry of Defense for making this Expo happen now for the second time. It's very critical. I feel like even if I was not invited, I would have get crushed because of how important I think this is for our environment and climate change space. The space economy, it encompasses a wide range of activities related to development, production, and application of space technologies. And just looking at it even from the viewpoint of our bottom-up economic transformation agenda, where at the core of it is job creation, you know, enriching our value chains to speak to the food security needs of the country. Space technology is right at the core of that. And we have already noted the milestones that Kenya has made with the establishment of the Kenya Space Agency, and the data insights that we will continue to gain from the Taifa 1, and particularly for my ministry. We are really looking to enhance the data, information, and an opportunity to unlock a multitude of opportunities for the country. In terms of informed decision making in the environment, climate change, and forestry sector, the Earth observation satellites provide an extensive data on weather patterns, resource distribution, and environmental changes. And by leveraging on this data, we can make critical decisions such as infrastructure development, resource management, and disaster preparedness. Real-time monitoring, for me, is another very critical area where traditionally our monitoring was scheduled and reactive, with issues being discovered only when reported. But with the new technologies and the advancement that is in the offing, we will be going to real-time monitoring of various resources, and it also comes at a critical point where we are saying that we have continued in this country to move without a clear accounting of the value of our natural resources, which will dictate the decision making and investments necessary to really profile our natural resources, as well as the interventions that need to go into limiting the natural disasters and the high degradation levels of our natural resources. Because once we attach the accurate value, then resources will follow, and thereafter investments to make sure that we are taking care of our natural resources. We have recently focused so much on our meteorological department, and I think we will all agree that now more than ever, we have a very close dependence on what the weatherman is saying here in Kenya, but we still have space to improve that. And I think with partnership and collaboration, we have a high opportunity to refine that so that we have accurate early warning systems that speak to that rural farmer and who can then make informed decision way before time, so that we stop the firefighting and reactive interventions that we have seen in the past. I'd like to mention that in 2021,
the Ministry of Environment did a forest assessment report, which gave us the current statistics of our tree cover, which stands at 12.13%, and our forest cover of 8.83%. And this was only possible with high-resolution images. And the exercise identified areas that needed intervention, much of which has informed our ecosystem restoration planning and action that we are currently taking. We have not maximized on the potential of how to make sure that we have real-time assessment of the improvement even coming from our ecosystem restoration interventions, and that is a space that is available for us to expand further. The climate change mitigations, and this is an area where we are faced with evidences of the adverse effects of climate change on a daily basis. Fresh in our minds is the current devastating floods, and by integrating satellite data with advanced analytics, we can better predict and intervene to minimize the catastrophic impacts of the climate change actions. I want to say that the possibilities are immense. We know that in our country, as has been said, I think, Waziri, the issue of investing in our space technologies cannot be overemphasized. We need to focus on, because this is about efficiency in our decision making and in our interventions that will better the lives of Kenyans, and for Kenya to be in step with the global direction that the space science is going into. And this brings me to my point of calling for close collaborations to make sure that with our strategic positioning as a country, then we can maximize our impact. And I can assure you, Waziri Duale is really, and I really commend the effort of your ministry to really bring to the fore the issue of space science, and I'm sure this is going forward to form priority areas in terms of investment for our country. In conclusion, the integration of space technologies offers unparalleled opportunities for informed decision-making, real-time monitoring, and climate change mitigation. These advancements are crucial for the sustainable development of our nation. Mainstreaming the space economy into national development is not an opportunity. It's not just an opportunity, but a critical necessity for sustainable growth. As we explore this frontier, let us ensure that our strategies are inclusive, fostering innovation, create high-skilled jobs that will drive our economy forward. And with this high skilling, the area of research and the STEM space is another one that we really need to loop in our education sector to spotlight the focus on skills development around space technologies. Thank you very much for the sponsors and participants, and let us enhance our partnership because, as has been said before, this is an area where collaborations are very immense, have immense opportunity, and as Balozi says, it is about learning from each other, and sharing experiences and joining hands together because, again, we share the same space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've heard from everybody, and thank you so much, Waziri, for those remarks. Because of time, I didn't want us to take much longer. However, Chief Guest, with your permission, if I can ask a question and give everybody 30 seconds to answer, will that be okay? If you say yes, then we can. If you say no, then okay, he has said it's okay. So we have a very quick rapid fire round of questions, and it's just going to be two. I'm going to ask three of you one question, and then I'm going to ask everybody for concluding remarks so that we can be done in the next few minutes. And I think this one, Balozi Kampa, Honorable Tuya, of course also Balozi Atia, you're all champions and ambassadors for women's rights and gender equality and equity. we have seen tremendous strides in many areas. I mean, you're both examples, Honorable Tuya, Bolozi Kampa, you're both examples of women at the forefront when it comes to policy making and the diplomatic space and, the technocratic space. But we still are lacking a little bit when it comes to women in STEM and women in space specifically. I want to give you 30 seconds, and I have my watch here, and I can hear the DG. He's going to whisper to me at the back when I've taken too long. 30 seconds just on your thoughts on what we can do to have more women join the space. Very general, you don't have to be anything specific, but what you think, any ideas that we can take forward. I'm going to start with you, Balozi Kampa.
So, in 30 seconds, I think that from India's perspective, it's actually an incredible story from India about participation of women in the space economy. We have today many bright spots in India's space successes that are led by women, mission directors, deputy mission directors, scientists out there who are leading from the front and really showing for other sectors an example that can be emulated in other areas as well. Of course, we can scale it up further and do more, and I think very briefly it starts with education, with inclusion of girls and women in STEM disciplines and encouragement to participate in STEM disciplines. And here also I'm very proud to say that India is a bit ahead of the curve in terms of the participation of girls and women in STEM disciplines. The more you get them out there, the more you have an engagement with youth and conversations around space technology and its relevance, not just in their professional choices, but also the impact they make on their country and on the ecosystems and the communities they inhabit. I think those are powerful enablers for girls and women to participate.
Thank you very much for the brief and powerful answer. One, just because we're gone one time, even the round of applause is just one abbreviated clap, so just, and we're done. Thank you. Maybe I will ask our ambassador from Egypt, just your thoughts as well, because you've also been a champion for women's rights on what we can do to have more women in the space industry.
I would actually echo Her Excellency in what she's mentioned. I mean, education is the base. That it has to be the grounds on which you build the generations that are capable of dealing with space technology and its applications in different areas of the economy. But when it comes to giving more advancement or more encouragement to women, I would think that issues of financial inclusion are very, very important. Allowing women to be able to establish their own firms, to register their own properties, as well as to get over any social hindrances that might be in the face of the empowerment of women. The financial inclusion is important. Once they have the access to the banking system, not just the M-Pesa. M-Pesa is a great invention. I think it's an experience that needs to be replicated in different parts of Africa and elsewhere. But I think more of that, how would they be able to tap resources and to that are available through banks and loans and so on, and then initiate their own businesses that would actually depend on use some of these applications. But the most important thing, and I think this is the role of any government, is to increase the participation of the private sector and in applications of space technology, as well as promoting the knowledge of the importance of these applications.
Thank you so much, Balozi. Honorable Tuya, now I actually have to count 30 seconds because I think the DG has texted me right now that we need to conclude. So I'll give you 30 seconds and then I'll give everybody a very, very brief closing remarks, one sentence just to close off the session, and then we can end. But Honorable Tuya.
I'll take 30 seconds to say the first woman Kenya Air Force commander in the history of Africa is none other than Major General Fatuma. And that happened recently. And these are actions that happen when there is an enabling space to give opportunity to women to take the frontline leadership in some of these otherwise untraditional spaces. I know tucked somewhere in our Kenya Kwanza manifesto is the need to enhance the participation and the enabling of women to get into the STEM space. And like I had said, it is about bringing the education sector into the center of these discussions. And I know that is a space that women will get in and do exploits. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those brief remarks. Balozi Natalie, maybe I can ask you, we haven't heard your voice in a very long time already in the panel, but if you can just give a concluding remark, and we'll go around and let everybody have an opportunity to give just one concluding remark for what we've talked about today. Oh, sorry. Yes, there we are.
Yes, okay. Thank you. We know that the women excel in many fields. Much more than men. But for instance, in space, in the space field in Italy, we have a lot of women working in the companies dealing with space and in the studies with space. But I would just like to mention Samantha Cristoforetti, who is a woman who has been employed and working on the international space station, and is one of our lady who is a woman we are proud in Italy for this activity in the space.
Let's give her a round of applause and hope with that message goes back to Italy. Your Excellency Atia, if you can also just concluding remarks generally for the session, and then I will follow that with Balozi Kampa, Honorable Tuya, and finally our chief guest will give concluding remarks.
I couldn't agree more with Waziri Tuya, what she said, you know, that it is cooperation, sharing experiences that we need, and this is why we have an African Space Agency now that is not only capable of providing the data image and imageries and so on that we can get from satellites, but also work on research and to allow its facilities to be used by African states in order to verify and test whatever satellites that they would want to launch. I think this is a great opportunity. We need to capitalize on it, and it is not only for the benefit of the governments, it's also and mostly for the benefits of our own populations.
Thank you very much for that. Balozi Kampa?
Yes, just to conclude by saying that we are really excited to see Kenya's space journey, and also very excited to explore the opportunities therein for bilateral cooperation with India. We are already doing so at the G2G level, but we look forward to harvesting opportunities at the G2B level as well as at the B2B level, and this is in evidence from the fact that we have a robust delegation from India participating in this conference and expo today, including the private sector and government agency in space. And we are committed to taking our partnership in the space economy from strength to strength. So thank you, Asante, for having me on this panel.
Thank you very much. And Honorable Tuya, she whispered to my ear that, yes, the soft landing that India did indeed feel like the dancing that happened earlier. So we can confirm that. Concluding remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Mine is just to say that the space science and technology is one that requires a concerted effort from the national government level. You have seen that the Ministry of Education should be at the core of it, the Ministry of Environment, and of course the Defense Ministry where it's domiciled, even the security aspects. And my presence here and the commitment that my colleague here has shown into the need to really support the space technology environment in this country is a demonstration of the national government's commitment to support this space and to make sure that space science and technology becomes real in terms of impact that brings lasting change to the populations of this country, and even enhancing our GDP, reducing the poverty levels of our populations. And it is a commitment that we are very unequivocal about as members of cabinet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. And our chief guest, Waziri Dwale, if you can just conclude the session for us. Thank you.
I think we'll wait for the deliberation of this important conference, and as ourselves, our partners, it will be very important for us to gain more valuable information, recommendations to improve on the development of the space agencies in our respective countries. I am sure the space economy will provide data and information to policymakers, both government and private sector and citizens, in making the right decision going forward, from climate change to smart cities, to urban planning, to surveillance for defense sectors. And finally, our international guest, you are in the city with the only city in the world with a national park, just behind you here. So if you have time, you can go, and if you have free time, go to the national park. And as you walk around here, if you encounter a lion, make sure that you be careful, because it's not a domesticated lion. So be very, very careful. You can find around here, particularly in the evenings or late afternoons. Please be careful.
Thank you very much. Can we give the entire panel a round of applause with a bit of noise now? Woo! Let's a bit of a shout one more time. Okay, perfect. That was enough. I heard it. As we prepare, I'm going to ask our panelists to sit. We just have a few official photos to take. And our camera team is ready. Just to let everybody know, I think we have rapporteurs who will summarize and will share everything we've learned. Mark Ndonga, Malkia Kelelu. So thank you so much for your support with that. And we have multiple photos that we will be taking. I think we'll start with the panelists first. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Karaganya. Yes, our first frame, unfortunately, Kara, you'll just move away from the frame.
Told them allowed to sit for this one because but the rules have changed, so I have to leave. Okay. All right.
Yes, Karaganya, thank you very much for your excellent moderating. A round of applause for him. I appreciate that our cabinet secretaries have a full program ahead for their day. So I would like to invite the ambassadors that are not on stage, Your Honorable Excellency, Mr. Luis Alejandro Levitt, Your Excellency, Ms. Nicole Adamkova from the Argentina Embassy and Czech Embassy, respectively. I would like to also invite Lorenzo Gabancota, the Deputy Ambassador for the Italian Embassy, and I would like to invite Ambassador Figo for this photo, please.
And also our VCDF for KDF, Lieutenant General Omenda, as well, to join us. If we can give them a round of applause, the sound will translate into the picture. It is new technology that we have produced. Thank you. We'd love to see a few more smiles, but fantastic. That is great.
Thank you very much. I would like to now invite our ambassadors to have a seat and keep our chief guest and our CS still on the floor, but our ambassadors can have their seat. As Mr. VCDF, you're still in the picture, so please remain standing. I would now like to call upon all the board members and the DG for KSA to come to the fore.
Our chief guest, Honorable Dwale, would still love to have you on stage. Sorry, we cannot not have you in any of the frames. We would love to have your big smile here with us for every picture that we take. Let's give our board directors at the Kenya Space Agency a round of applause.
I would also like to invite Major General Nkyomo to come to the stage for the photo.
Major General Fatma, are you also here with us? Okay, she has just stepped out. I'm going to encourage all our board directors to say KM for the photo. KM together, 3, 2, 1. KM, okay, nobody said KM. Those were my initials. I was hoping I could get them to say my initials, but nobody budged, which is fine. Round of applause for that.
I would implore our chief guest, our CS, to please remain on stage. As well as the DG.
Our chief honorable guest, sorry, we still want one more photo with you, I believe.
All the photos just remain standing. Apologies, we're making you work triple time. Yes, please, and the DG, please. And then I'd now like to invite our CEOs and sponsors to come to the front. Our CEOs and sponsors, please make your way to the stage for the third official photo. Okay. Thank you very much. And we understand we now have members of KSA. Please come quickly to take your photo. Members of KSA, those that are available, please come for the final photo. Yes, they must.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for the photo as well.
Thank you very much. Now the DG will lead our chief guests and our CS around the exhibit and officially open the expo. Thank you so much.
Ask all of our attendees to remain seated. However, everybody who had come for a photo, our ambassadors, our board directors, please follow our Director General and our chief guest with that delegation as we head out to cut the ribbon. I'll ask everybody else to remain seated, apart from exhibitors who will need to have 2 people.
Maximum per booth, please.
2 people maximum at your booth, so please exit via the back while we'll allow our delegation to come forward. And I encourage us all to look at our screen.
Yes, please. Please remain seated so that we can observe the official opening of the Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024.
That is an interesting freeze frame. Okay. Okay, I think we can see them coming. The music is dramatic. The camera. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I believe we have our ambassador from Argentina as well present. We can see our ambassador from the Czech Republic present, His Excellency Luis Levit, as well as Her Excellency Nicole Adamkova, respectively. Our other panelists are on stage, and here we go. Round of applause as they cut the ribbon. We are officially begun. The Expo Space, Kenya Space Expo and Conference 2024 is officially opened.
I will now invite everyone to have tea. Anyone who is not an exhibitor, you can now have your tea. We will have tea for 20 minutes. We're trying to make time on the program. So we will be back here at 12:20, but we'll start calling you at 12:15. So bear with us when we start calling you back to the stage.
Again, we're inviting you all to have a tea and health break. Please exit via this door to my left. Strictly 20 minutes.
Strictly 20 minutes.
Strictly 20 minutes.
But at 15 we'll start bothering
At 15 we shall remind you, because we want to begin the next session at exactly 12:20. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and please give yourselves a round of applause as you walk by me. I'm going to wave at everybody who walks past me. Thank you so much for your patience and for your time, for staying. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Please enjoy your tea. We have plenty of tea and coffee and snacks for you to refresh yourselves with. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate your presence, and we'll see you here at 12:20 for our second high-level plenary discussion before we head out for lunch. Please also take the opportunity to network with each other. If there are individuals who you have not met, this is a perfect space to meet people who can come together and really grow everything that you want to do around space exploration and exploitation.
Since the beginning of the space race, nations have been rushing to tap into this limitless potential, and Africa is no exception. Leading these efforts from East Africa is Kenya, a country strategically located at the equator, making it a prime location for undertaking space endeavors. At the forefront is the Kenya Space Agency, an entity mandated to promote, coordinate, and regulate space-related activities in the country